Rohit Raju here with another Raju's Rants, and this time we are talking about Predator Badlands. I'm not gonna lie, I did not know how I was gonna feel about this movie. I wasn't the biggest fan of Prey. I didn't dislike it. I liked Prey. I did not feel the same way everybody else felt, where they thought this was like Prey was like the greatest movie ever made. I didn't feel like that. I watched it one time, had no desire to watch it again, don't even remember half of it. I remember the dog being cool, and that was only recently because someone reminded me. I love the first Predator movie. It is one of my favorite Arnold movies, one of my favorite sci-fi action movies. I think that movie is amazing. I know a lot of people try to say, "Oh, it's just usual BS 80s." No. It's great because you put these alpha males in this jungle and you think they're all going to be badass, and they get picked off one by something better than them. And that movie has some of the most memorable one-liners. I ain't got time to bleed. Jesse Ventura. This shit'll make you a sexual tyrannosaurus. And not to mention, get to the chopper, Mac, Mac. You cooked up the story and dropped the six of us in the meat grinder. Dylan, you son of a bitch. All of those, right? Just quote worthy, memorable, set the standard, set the tone, and it introduced us to one of the coolest freaking villains, slasher, whatever you want to call it, antagonist of all time, the Predator. Now, the Yautja has grown over the years. It has had some pretty good movies, and it has had more bad than good. Dan Trachtenberg has kind of revitalized it. He did well with Prey. Killer of Killers was pretty good. Besides, I like the majority of Killer of Killers. Besides the last two episodes, I thought that got into a very corny Fast and the Furious Independence Day style. But other than that, I enjoyed it. Predator 2, I liked for what it was. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's pure 90s slosh, and or slop, whatever you want to say. I still enjoyed it. Danny Glover fighting a predator, Gary Busey's crazy ass. It worked for me. It was still fun. Predator, what came after that? Was it Alien vs. Predator? I hated those movies. I thought they were just bad. I did not enjoy those at all. Predators with Adrian Brody, even though I don't really see him as a really big antagonist, it's hard to see that when you have Arnold. But I mean, if you do Danny Glover, Adrian Brody, he gets a pass as well. And I don't, no disrespect to those two, but it's Arnold, right? He's jacked up, huge alpha male style character, and then you have those guys, but it still worked. I enjoyed Predators. The Predator was some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. I thought that was garbage. And then we talk about Prey. We already talked about that, and we already talked about Predator, Killer of Killers. Where does Badlands fit into this? I really liked Badlands. There were some things I did not like about it, but the majority of it I really enjoyed. I'm kind of glad I got some things spoiled for me, not like plot points, but tone of the movie. When I first saw the first trailer that dropped, I was like, oh, this could be really cool. We're following the Predator. A lot of times the Predator is the bad guy. He's always getting outsmarted, getting killed. And like the first one was good, right? Because Arnold really had to go he had to go back to the roots of the big guns weren't going to work, so he had to outsmart the predator, where normally Arnold's the one using brute force, but in this at the end he has to outsmart it. So that's cool. You're always underdog. After a while you can only do, oh, the predator gets killed by the skin of its teeth by this protagonist so many times. So this, I was like, okay, we get to see the predator as the protagonist. I wonder how this will go. And then I started to hear things about it, how it was very jokey, and there's a goofy little sidekick in it. I was like, oh my god, they Disneyfied this. They really did, which they did, but it works. And I'd have to say, Predator One's still my top. This might come second, and then maybe Predators and Predator 2 and then Prey, and then I don't count any of those ones because I didn't like them. As far as my overall feeling, I think it's very enjoyable. I do understand why people don't like it. If you are a diehard Predator fan and you are looking for a rated R, gory Predator just ripping people apart, you're going to get things ripped apart, but no blood because he's fighting synths and, CGI creatures. So you'll get a lot of cool kills, but not like, they were skinned alive. Now you're not getting any of that shit. But that works for this story. Okay. Story is deck, inspect the deck on the warpath. That's all I think. Every time I hear deck, I'm just thinking the Rebel Lioness from the Wu Tang, the Killer Bees. But Deck is the runt of the litter. He's really close with his brother, and his dad is like, he's a warlord, not the king, but he's in charge. And he's like, hey, why don't you kill your brother already? Why is he still alive? And spoilers, full spoilers. I'm gonna talk about shit throughout the movie, from the movie, but full spoilers. So he's like, why don't you kill your brother already? He's a runt. He's weak. Weakness needs to be culled. And he's like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. He deserves a hunt. We're gonna let that happen. Dad's like, nope, no, we're not. Traps his brother. He's like, kill him. He does not kill him. He sets his brother free, puts him on the ship, does his little predator wristwatch dealio. The ship takes off, but Deck sees his brother get killed, which I think is Queel or something like that. So he sees him get killed, which is, that's a bummer. Quay is his name. And so his dad's like, all right, whatever. He takes off. He's supposed to go do a hunt. He's supposed to go fight the Kalisk, find this Kalisk. It's this legendary creature that no one's ever been on this planet Death. It's like pretty much think of Kong Skull Island or even Kong with Peter Jackson's Kong, and where everything can kill you. The plants, the bugs, other creatures. That's how it is. The set pieces is very good. It is CGI heavy. Some of the CGI looks really good. Some of it is very video game-ish, but it still looks really good. We'll get to that in a minute. So he goes on this planet and he bumps into Thea, who's a Wutani synth, which I thought was cool. Nice little tie in there with the Alien franchise. And I hate Alien Earth, but we won't get into that. But this was really cool. Her legs are missing. Obviously, you've probably seen in the trailer. And she convinces him, hey, let me come along with you. I'm not going to help you, but you can use me like a tool. Because the Yautja, they're a very proud race, proud creatures, and they're supposed to hunt and work alone. So she's not technically helping him. He's like, well, you're not a person. I'll use you as a tool. So, but of course, they start to create a bond because they're talking and things like that. And he opens up, and she's kind of like a universal synth. So she's familiar with the Yautja and very other species. And so she is like, well, hey, you know what? I know about your species. He talks to him, asks him questions, stuff like that. Well, at one point, they have very creative creatures that they do as well. But like I was going back to the CGI, which I'll get back to that. But so they have very creative environments, very creative creatures. So he has to go and kill this one creature, but it's in like this field of grass, but it's glass. So like the blades are literally blades and they're sharp. And they're all of a sudden this cute CGI monkey style pug looking creature comes along. And I was just like, ooh, please tell me we're not doing this. We're not going to do what I think we're going to do. And they did. They have this big doe-eyed, bug-eyed creature, super cute and cutesy and does silly things. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing this with the Predator. And a lot of the jokes that they do in this, especially from Thea, who's the android, she plays dual roles. There's Thea, and then I can't remember what her sister's, not her sister, but her counterpoint android is name. But she's like the evil android, and so yeah, it's definitely fun. The movie is really good. And then, but some of the stuff, like when they do the moments of like the comedy, it was sparse, but still, I was like, oh man, I just don't know. I don't know about this. And so, but it still worked. And I'm trying to find out, I'm trying to see who Elfan played. I know it was Thea, and I'm trying to figure out her sister's name, and I can't figure out her sister's name. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. We're gonna look. I'm actually gonna pause it because I don't want to be sitting here having it on hold because that's gonna bug me. I hate it when I can't figure out the names to things when I'm talking about, and I'll have it in my head, Oh, Tessa. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that was bugging. That was really bugging me. But yeah. So, anyways, they get this little monkey creature and it follows them, and then it saves their life when they're fighting this huge creature, and then they save its life, and they're all camping together. And around the campfire, they kind of have this comedy, and then the creature kind of mimics everything Deck does, and they're building this relation, like this bond. You can tell, and it's very just cutesy and bug-eyed, doe-eyed. I'm just like, I know why they did that. They made this movie PG-13. They made it because they wanted like mainstream fans. They wanted to make it mainstream. They want to market this, have this like be the baby Yoda. And while I understand that, I'm not a fan of that. It works for this movie, but it's not going to work with every Predator movie. And we'll get into that as well. Why I think that's a bad thing. And so they go on this hunt, and then next thing you know, she's using him. Like they find the Callus lair, and she's telling the story about, yeah, my counterpart Tessa. Like it's her, but like it's because they're the same synth. And she's like, yeah, my she can pretty much be my I consider you could yeah, she's my sister. She's like my sister. And the whole movie is about like relationships and family and who is your family, stuff like that, and I don't want to say coming of age, but growing as an individual. And so she ends up telling him, "Hey, you need to leave," because she doesn't have her legs, and they find like her crash site, her the Wutani crash site, and she's trying to get her legs back. And she's like, "You need to leave. I just put in a homing beacon. My job is to find the Calisk." And he's like, "No, no, no, no. You're the tool. I use you." She's like, "No, I used you." And so he's like, "Nah, screw this. I'm going to fight this thing. I don't care who you bring, down here. You guys are going to stop me." So he's fighting the Calisk, and the fight's pretty cool, but it feels like a video game fight. And this creature can just regenerate, so he cuts the head off, cuts the tail off, and the CGI is really cool for the most part. Some of it does look very video game-ish, but then it's like that. Well, if this thing can't be killed, it becomes like that type of creature. But it is pretty cool. The fight's cool. A lot of the action scenes and sequences that they do are really neat and very, very well done and very creative. So I give that, I got to give props to that. But overall, the movie was very mainstream and it's kind of made for everybody. So like when he's fighting these synths come and they freeze both creatures, him and the Calisk, and they take him and then they take her. She's like, "Oh no, don't he's not, we don't need him," and they take him anyways. And then her sister, her sister, but it's her counterpart Tessa, she's trying to bond with her, and then they're torturing Deck because she's like, "Hey, we have a Yautja specimen. Let's do experiments on him. We can get this vital information," because they know about the predators. And then the good one's like, "No, we don't need them." She's trying to convince her sister, her counterpart, that we don't need to hurt the Yautja. And they end up being at odds because one is all about the corporation and the other one is and they're both programmed to have feelings. So one is super sensitive and the other one is like goal driven. And so what happens is, they escape, and then Deck kind of goes back. Oh, and they abandon the monkey creature because when it spits on Deck, and it's like, oh, and Thea has to say like, "Hey, this is welcoming you to his clan. He's thinking of you as family." And so when he's fighting the creature, the callus has it down. He smells them. Well, it turns out that this little baby monkey bug-eyed thing is a child callus. It's child. So it smells it on him because, the callus, the baby spit on it and welcomed him to the clan. So the callus is like, "Oh, no, you're one of us." And so anyways, Deck, he escapes, kind of has like a coming to Jesus moment, goes back to rescue Thea, finds the Calisk, or the baby Calisk, Bud, as they named it. And then they just kind of go rescue Thea. And there's a couple weird parts. Like there's a part with like her legs are walking and she ends up controlling the legs. At first I was like, this is really corny and stupid. But then it ends up kind of being cool because you see how they're getting controlled. But there are a few like moments when she has to disguise herself to try to free the Kalisk, and she puts on a rain jacket, and it instantly reminded me of the Obi-Wan thing because when she's trying to rescue it, one of the guards, and they're all like synths, the guards are, so when he fights them, he's ripping them apart, but it's no blood, right? It's all like just CGI shit, or it's like juice and liquid, and it's all gray. So the fight scenes, like I said, are really cool. But so when she's trying to free the Kalisk, the of course the baby Kalisk mocks people that it likes, so he has a raincoat on, and so they have this like really serious moment where she's trying to get it, and they, in my eyes, they ruin it with the comedy because he's like, oh, in the back throwing his hands up, oh, no, doing shit like that because he has the rain jacket on that matches hers. And it's just like, wah, 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 wah. And I was just like, what are we fucking doing here? And there was another moment around the campfire, I think, where it was heavy on the comedy. And I was just like, okay, all right. But it wasn't too much. The creature wasn't too much. I know why they put the creature in there. The ending's pretty cool. It kind of leaves where they can make another one or leave it at that. I thought the movie was good, though. It was very enjoyable. It was very fun. It flew by. And it's worth watching, especially in the theater. Now, I do understand why people wouldn't like this. Like I said, it's very mainstream. It's very, it's Marvel. It's like a Marvel formula, right? They interrupt the moments of levity with the comedy and like the serious moments. And I'm just like, they didn't do too much of it, but there were a few moments where I was just like, that was really dumb. That was kind of cringy. But there was only like maybe two or three for me. Other than that, the opening to this is badass. The opening scene, the title intro, it's awesome. The title screen, really, really cool. And I thought it was well done. This movie is very well done. The way it's a very small cast, so the budget was low. So I'm sure it's going to make its money, which is really cool. But I do feel like Dan Trachtenberg is doing the right thing. I do feel like it was a studio mandate to have this cute little creature in there. So I really don't know how I feel about that because it seemed just, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I wasn't, you could tell it felt like it was like, oh, Disney was like, you got to have something cute in there and make it PG-13. And so he did, and he worked around that. And like I was saying too, some of the CGI worked and some of it didn't. So when you get into some of these fights, it's super CGI heavy, especially the last fight when they make it very close to where it's just like, it feels like a video game. It's cool, and it worked, but some of it was just like, okay. It didn't really hold the weight because it was CG. It's almost like the first Black Panther movie, that fight scene between the Black Panthers, Killmonger and T'Challa, and the CGI is just really shitty. And that's what it feels like. It's like there's no stakes, there's no realism. It doesn't feel lived in. So there are a few moments like that. Where in the first Predator, everything's it's like a giant fucking dude walking around in a suit. And I believe the majority of this, it was him. Maybe his face was and his eyes were CG'd. But, I mean, it still looked good. But there were some moments where it didn't. Does this fit in with the Predator universe? I think they do a really good job of describing the Yautja. His character fits into the Predator universe, as in he's an outcast, right? So this story works. Can you do this again? You have to do it with him. This cannot be your formula. So I do fear that with it being mainstream, with it having this Marvel-esque formula, is that it will make its money. It got good reviews from both audience and critics. So now they're going to double down on that. Here's the thing. That does not work with all predators. Predators are a merciless killing machine. They rip spines out of people. They skin them alive. They take trophies. This predator deck is very humanized because he goes on a different journey. So it works for his character. So he's going to be different. He can be hunted by other predators because now he's like the badass. Because he comes back, he kills his dad. Then at the end, all these other ships are coming. And she's like, are these friends of yours? And he's like, no, that's my mother. and that's how it ends. And now he's like, his dad's like, oh, you can join the clan. And he's like, I got my own clan. And then the little callous baby is all grown up, but it still has like the cutesy face, and it's just kind of like, what are we doing here with that? That's kind of a little bit too on the nose there. So, this works. You can have him as a protagonist. You can have him fight other predators, but you cannot continue to job out the predators. And I've spoke to this in other videos. You can't, if you have that, the predator's got to win sometimes. And where he's a good predator, he's also a babyface predator, a good guy predator. So you can't have another movie and it's the predator and he's hunting and then he's like badass, but then he gets killed by some lame ass humans. Same thing if they did it in the animated form. So because sooner or later they're not going to be a threat, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So whereas I said this movie works as a standalone thing, I don't think it works. It works in the Predator universe, but as him. If that makes any sense. If I'm making sense, hopefully I am. The babyface superhero style good guy character works for Deck, but you can't continue to make a PG-13 Predator movie because what happens when you have humans in it, you can't kill them. You can't do the same fight scenes. Heads aren't going to be getting ripped off. Spines aren't going to be getting ripped out. Bodies aren't going to be getting torn in half. It works because it's a synth, but that you can't do that with PG-13. And I don't think that the studio is going to want, they're going to want to make money. They're going to want to have the most people there. And that's why they did this very mainstream, because you get that mainstream audience. I don't think they got the young audience like they thought they would have. Apparently people, I don't know how they figure this shit out, but apparently the metrics show that it's more of an adult audience going to this movie and not the younger people. So, another PG-13 Predator movie, I don't know what you can do with that. You can't do this story again. You can't have humans in it and have half-ass kills. And you can't have a badass predator be in it and be the antagonist and just end up getting killed pretty lame in the end. Hopefully that makes sense. And of course, they like money. So if this makes money enough, they are going to overdo this formula until it's dead in the fucking water. They're going to marvelize it, and and sooner or later, it's just not going to work. But overall, I thought this movie was really cool. It was very fun. It fits for what it is. I do think it's worth spending money on, and it's also something that I would watch again. So, Predator Badlands, what did you think? If you didn't like it, I understand why people didn't like this film. Totally understand and totally get it. I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you because I actually understand that. But I enjoyed it, and I didn't think I would, and I'm very glad that I did enjoy it. And it is something that I would definitely watch again, and I would love to see more of Deck and his little clan in the future. All right, this has been Roheezy. Thanks for listening. Take care.